All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for those who joined the morning prayers. Uh, can't believe I go back to work this week. That's funny. The ads. I wonder how that works. All right. Let's see. I'm going to make an event page on Patristic Faith, but in which I hold on. Let me find this real quick. In which I embed the link for purchasing tickets. But the Eventbrite is where you purchase the tickets. Let's see, one second. I'm gonna put it in the chat for you guys. Copy paste. This is our conference, Friday, November 21st, and Saturday. It's a 2-day event. Saturday, so Friday, November 21st through Saturday, November 22nd. Athens and Jerusalem. So Orthodox art, philosophy, the faith. That theme itself is, well, it's a quote from Tertullian, who would raise the question, what has Athens to do with Jerusalem? And that famous quote, it's important, whether we agree with Tertullian or not. But the question is, what does philosophy or Athens have to do with faith? How do those relate, i.e., Jerusalem, right? Obviously, Christianity did not begin in the arms of philosophy, contrasted to what later developed in the West. The first half millennium of Christianity, in fact, marginalized pagan Greek philosophical faith and reason. Now, it wasn't fideism, but they obviously read the fathers and they critiqued pagan Greek philosophy. And Orthodoxy turned to Jerusalem, not Athens. Nevertheless, the church did use philosophy. It even took terms and distinctions from the pagan Greek philosophers. So part of this conference is to answer what exactly is the Orthodox understanding on this issue. How should Orthodox view philosophy and human reason? How should we understand faith? What's the distinction between natural revelation and supernatural revelation? Does Orthodoxy have a natural theology? Good news, the church provides an answer for us to these questions. But she presents a very different conception of knowledge and faith from that of the West, one that places an emphasis on the experiential and incarnational reality of both. Orthodoxy does not attempt to ground its theology on human reason philosophy, but rather on the transformative encounter with the living God through revelation of the Holy Trinity and the life and person of Jesus Christ. Therefore, we invite you to join us for this amazing conference. There'll also be, on art as well from Father Vlad. But learn the true relationship between faith and philosophy. Discover the ultimate true source of truth and experience the true faith, the faith of the fathers, the faith that established the universe, as we say. So, We'll have Metropolitan Jonah, Father Vlad, myself, Jay Dyer, and others speaking. I will put up, this is just the event page where to purchase the tickets, 2-day for $55. And I'll make like I said, a Patristic Faith event page in which I embed that. But if you wanted to purchase, it is in, it's outside of Jacksonville, St. Augustine. I can't remember what's the actual name of the city. Palm Coast, Florida. Yes, and thanks, Technographics. Everybody is welcome to join. So it's a 2-day event, Friday and Saturday, but liturgy on Sunday. Join us. Yes, Omar, I have. This just shows you people are not interested in reading. The entire argument for tag is a support of. There's nobody in the right mind that thinks that the modus ponens is simply just the only argument of tag. God is the necessary condition for knowledge, knowledge therefore God. Like, there's countless work that I've done, like, all the arguments are for. So these people are reprobate, scoundrel, demon dogs. They have no interest in studying or learning about what the argument is. So, demon dogs. You want me to go over it for the 50 millionth time? And by the way, how you know they're demon dogs is Cleveland Antiquity. Good to see everybody on here. Do you think, like, just put out every single premise? I'm like, I could do that. Let me doing modal logic, S5 modal logic. I could do all this stuff, right? Do you think that any of these people asking for this are like, oh wow, I get it now? They don't want, like, it just shows you this is not an intellectual problem. Also, something came to, these things always come to me when I'm laying down trying to go to sleep. Yes, do you have any book recommendation to understand tag argument? Yes, I say get this Herodotus right here. Pick up Herodotus. I want you to read that. I want you to read Thucydides, the Odyssey by Homer, Sophocles, Mark Twain, Cervantes, Don Quixote, Ovid, Yeats, Tennyson, Virgil, the Iliad, Dostoevsky. Those are all the books I recommend for understanding tag. Maybe you should just do a great books program. Read the great books and then. But this relates to people like, well, how does it prove the Trinity? And I'm not joking about it. Like, you seriously should probably start reading literature and classic literature and poetry, Crime and Punishment. Yeah, Dave. One of the things I realized the other night is when people are asking for, like, trying to understand this argument, they think it's some a priori argument. In which, yeah, but how does it prove the like what a priori piece makes this work. Do you realize the argument's talking about revelatory theism? And that doesn't mean a private, subjective revelation, but a revelation in human history that's publicly accessible and you can look. It is not an part of that's history, right? That's empirical. It's looking at, so there's a real misunderstanding of what the argument actually is, that they think that it's like, well, how does it prove it a priori and a synthetic analytic kind of, it's like, that's not what the argument is. Argument really is, what did I say? Once you realize that accidentalism is a defeater, and intentionalism, there must be a personal God who stands behind the universe, in the back of the universe, that creates all this and sustains all of this through his intentional act, not accidental. The question then becomes not, is there a person in a position to know, but is there a person, i.e. God, who's in a position to reveal, and if so, has he revealed himself? So when people ask, well, I don't understand how it proves the Trinity, like, because that's what God revealed himself as, Trinity. Not some a priori argument where, now I can show how a monad or a dyad or any other variation makes knowledge impossible, but you're missing the argument. God is, as David the psalmist says, God is, and there's no third option, accidental necessity. That's all you have to do. Like, they're literally so either you're changing the conversation and the meaning of the words. There is no third option between bachelor and married man. What if there's a third option? Again, this shows you these people are demon dogs. It's not about the argument. They'll do anything they can to avoid the obvious. What if there's a third option between she's pregnant or not pregnant? I mean, think about how stupid you have to be and disingenuous person of bad faith to actually think that. What if it's accidental necessity? So again, you take every term and thing that they put in there and be like, it's either intentionalism or accidentalism. What if it's necessity? Accidental necessity, which just shows it's a contradiction. There's no accidental necessity. All the info is in here and here. It's in the faith. Like, study orthodoxy. But there is no argument that stands led by pure autonomous reason by which you prove God. It's the impossibility of that. It's a radically different way of going, I'm not in a position to actually justify that knowledge exists. It is intuitive. It's like, it's not a hard argument. And then what's funny is people, like, I explained, they're like, oh, still don't get, it's like, let's just say, like, TAG's more of a rehab program. You've gotten yourself to think incorrectly about the world. So your mind's in your nous is the problem, like, is all messed up. The problem isn't, well, I just missed a step in the argument. Why? Because when I'm going to show you something, when I spell out premise by premise, it's not like people are like, oh, I was just missing. They get even more confused than other, which shows you that it's like, it's not an intellectual problem. It's, you've got yourself to think incorrectly about it. It's your hardware. So it really is a rehab. But I'll show you the argument. People drive me crazy, dude. these explanations, like, seriously. By the way, as Dave said, though, the fact that they spend so much time literally trying to think of a third option between she's pregnant and not pregnant, bachelor and married gentleman, shows that, like, it is the argument. They're not wasting their time on all this. And the links of absurdity they would go to try to find a third op to get out of. They're literally actually now saying that there's a third option between she's pregnant and not pregnant. That's how bad these people have gotten. Yeah, accidental truth, accidental law, accidental necessity. Do you not see what I'm saying? That it's like, how stupid? All right, watch this. I'll put it premise by premise all the way down. And people still be like, yo, but, oh, I don't get it. It's like, gonna prove the point. All right, ready? The reason why I put this is you have to understand the kind of general structure and then go into the details. So no, yeah. First of all, we have to talk about there is no generic God. This is not a rigid designator. So obviously this depends on details. Nobody just says this is that's the argument. We just put that's how dumb these atheists are. You can't see that how retarded atheism makes you. Generally speaking, this is how the argument would work, and then we'll go into the details. Like, but the thing, I mean, think about this. This is how bad faith these are. Anybody that presents a deductive syllogism, a valid or and a sound, which means a valid argument, deductive argument with true premises. The premise is only true because based on something else. There is no deductive argument that is like self-evidently true and sound. A valid argument is one if the premises are true, then it necessarily follows the conclusion. So, if we say that one of the premises is true, that's true because of something else. So, it just shows you, of course, there's support for number one. Nobody's just saying that's it, we just assert it. Which is really what they believe. They just like, well, you just presuppose God. Like, I could just presuppose. It's like, nope, you're dumb. I put it in the S5 modal logic, and you guys don't need to know. This just has to do with necessity. You can look up like the K axiom, how I derived that. But really, what's the support of this? The disjunctive. It's either God or it's not God. There's no third category. I'm going to show that premise 2 of the disjunct is true. It can't be not God. Therefore, God is a necessary condition. Okay? Again, that's just a general kind of outline of where we're going. The support for this, again, you can't say this is false without refuting one of these. So you can't refute that. I'm going to show that this is true. So what necessarily follows is this. Okay, let's go into the details. Now I'm going to give you a premise by premise to prove actually it's the Orthodox God. It's the Trinity. It's either theonomous, epistemology, or autonomous. What do those terms mean? Autonomous means that And you may actually believe in God. You may be a theist and start with autonomous epistemology. All that means is you don't assume that God is the necessary condition for the possibility of knowledge, that you think that's something you have to prove. That it's possible God does not exist. So it's the rejection of presuppositionalism. Theonomous is the opposite category. That autonomous epistemology is false, that one who's in a position to know who's God that stands behind the universe has to reveal and ground knowledge. Okay, so if that's true, if I've defined those, if autonomous epistemology, so we're in the disjunct here, we're looking at if autonomous epistemology is true, it's possible to make second order knowledge claims. What is that? It's the claims that you make that knowledge exists. Now, the reason why I put first and second order is that it's possible for you to have knowledge. The tree is green and be justified. Now I'm going to argue only because God exists, but without you assuming God exists as the necessary condition. But what you can't do, you can't be justified in asserting that knowledge exists. That's a second order claim. Okay? So, autonomous epistemology, if it's true, it is possible to make assertions knowledge exists, admitting that it's possible that God doesn't exist. Because these are antithetical categories, right? It's a true disjunct. If autonomous epistemology is possible, then revelatory theism is false. And I can put it in right there in the exclusive disjunct, either P or not P or Q. So it's either God, revelatory theism, it's not God. There's no third option there. That's what the exclusive disjunct. You can't say she's both. There's a third option between she's pregnant and not pregnant. But what does this term mean? Not God, not revelatory theism. Well, if revelatory theism is there's a personal God behind the universe who creates and sustains the universe, makes knowledge possible, makes you so that you're capable of knowing identity over time, all of the things, right? And he does that with an intention, right? He has a mind. He has an intention to actually do, then it's not accident. Like, there's no other third category. You either do something on intention or you do something by accident. So to say not God or not revelatory theism, not intentionalism, is accidentalism. Accidentalism, premise 6, makes knowledge impossible. Why? Well, just read any standard textbook of epistemology. There's nobody out there that thinks you can have accidental knowledge. Right? Coincidence. Even JTB, right? And even the Gettier problems, stuff like that. All of that is basically proving that there's no such thing as an accidental true belief. So within the term itself, on everybody's definition, no matter how you modify it of knowledge, knowledge precludes accident. So you can't, and I'm not saying give me a historical account of where knowledge, how it emerges or something like that. I'm asking you to explain the term. By the one thing that the term excludes. It's literally contradictory. So it makes knowledge impossible. It makes the very meaning and term, like meaning impossible. Accidental meaning, accidental law, like all of those things preclude accident. If you think about how we use those words and what they mean. So I can't assert accidentalism. Why? Because that's a knowledge claim. So I'd have to both what? Affirm and deny the thing that I have. That's a contradiction. So therefore, not God, not revelatory theism is false. There is no third option. I'm sorry to tell you, if you can't figure out something that intuitive, like you've got a lot bigger problems. However, if not God, not revelatory, is false, a defeater for knowledge and any knowledge claims, even that axiotism is true, then God revelatory must be true. That's from the exclusive disjunct. However, if God, revelatory theism is the only necessary, but if God, revelatory is necessary too, then God must be the necessary condition of the possibility of knowledge, by impossible contrary. Premise 10, however, if God, revelatory is the only necessary condition of the possibility of knowledge, then autonomous epistemology, what did it imply? That it's possible that the non-possible thing, the necessary thing, is possible. Contradiction. So autonomous epistemology is contradictory and false as a defeater. However, if autonomous epistemology is false, then revelatory theism must be true. Premise 12. If revelatory theism is true, then it is God revealed as Trinity, or God is revealed as something else, not Trinity. Another exclusive, either God's Trinity or he's not, he's something else. Okay. Here. So far, so good. Does everybody follow me on this? Oh, yeah, it's the other one. They think we're coherentists. So, like, this is, again, how stupid. They hear a word and be like, oh, well, you must be... That'd be like if you said, the faith is empirically verifiable, right? Like, it's something real. What God did, Christ was a real person in history, right? There was a real historical... Oh, he said empirical. He must be an empiricist. So if you say you want something to cohere, oh, you're a coherentist. If I say God's the foundation, oh, he must be a foundationalist. How do you even talk to somebody that's that dumb? We're not coherentists. All right. Everybody got it? And by the way, these people are probably 17 years old in their mom's basement. Like, I really don't know why you waste time on even talking to these people. All right, for the 50 millionth time, let's go. All right, we ended off here. So it's either the Trinity, God's Trinity, or he's not. So what I'm going to prove is if God's not Trinity, then second order knowledge claims are impossible. One cannot obtain the necessary, which means claims about the possibility of knowledge. Premise 12, God must be Trinity since to be able to obtain the necessary conditions of the possibility entails a proportion between the two relating terms. So if we've already realized God has to be the necessary condition, I have to obtain it. Well, I'm on this side of it. We're on this side of the equation. In order to relate those, how do I relate two categories, antithetical categories? Well, what do I mean by that? Well, you have a conception of God as infinite, uncircumscribable, unknowable, transcendent, infinite, uncreated, literally just the opposite category of this. This is when philosophy, you have a dialectical problem, right, of incommensurability. You can't actually relate the two terms either causally, logically, within a sentence, unless the two different things share something in common. That's called the mean proportion. The mean proportion is personal. We're not just essences. We're not just a being and God, an infinite being or something like that. Those two things, and if you think about that, when Moses on the mountain asks, "What's I am?" Who am? He gives a personal. A person talks to another person and relates to. Essences don't talk. Essences aren't lords. They're not lawgivers. They don't relate. The universe may depend on that for its being, but it's not Lord. It's not a person. And so even if God was a necessary, you would never get to it unless he was person. God must be personal. 15, personhood must implies relations to other persons. The very use of the term, how it's used in semantics, implies existere, right? Its existence refers to the other person. So you just have to be an anarchist semantically to. I've gone over that with streams covering over Bradshaw's article, Boethius on personhood. We're not objects or natures. We're persons who have natures and essences. Just like we say father's a person, father's only father in relation to being a father of a son or daughter or whatever. So you can even see that in the notion of personal pronouns. They refer to other personality, all these things. So God must eternally relate to another person. Well, that means he's not a strict monad. Okay? A monad is not a relation to anything else. Okay, but you dyad. One is not many. In other words, not dyad. So people never get this. It's an easy. I just don't understand why people can't get like really easy arguments. One means what? Not many. You get that? But the two things are actually one. They're no longer two. They're the same thing. They're one. And if something's one, it's not different. So this is the principle of difference. This is the principle of not difference. Sameness. Why people can't get this? Oh, now we've got a problem. If God must be personal, he can't be monad. We already saw that. Because it implies at least dyad. But if you dyad, there's no way I can say the two are the same. This is what's called the problem of the one and the many. Because they're literally defining an antithesis. I can't say by virtue of these principles alone that something is both one and not one. multiple. I need a third principle. It's called triad. It's neither reducible to just being one or many, but encapsulates one and many. So this is the first principle. God must be Trinity. It transcends, as St. Gregor the theologian says, the one and the many. Triad is neither one nor is it the dyad. It contains it. It transcends the dialectical opposition between these two terms. One can't be two and two can't be one. But three is neither one nor two, but encapsulates and transcends the dialectical opposition. So God is Trinity. Why isn't God 4 or 5? Because what is 4 or 5? In principle, it is either 1 plus 3 or 2 plus 2 or 1 plus 1 plus 1. And what principles? We're back where we started from. Right? So again, God must be Trinity. Does everybody follow me on that? I mean, it's literally proving the Trinity. But on the other hand, we could be like revelatory theism. God has revealed himself. So that's an actual historical thing that you can look at. So that is like that God is the Lord who's revealed himself. So how does, like, without even getting into these arguments, I mean, these guys are just tools. They're clowns. Yeah, I just don't understand why you guys are having a hard time with. Help me out here. I mean, it's literally as easy as 1, 2s, and 3s. Like, can you help explain why 1 means not 2, not dyad? 2 is not the same as 1, so it's not 1. Okay? So you can't say something is it's opposites, right? You have to have a third thing. What's a third? It's really easy. God must be personal. He must be 3 persons, a trinity of one essence, since the triad overcomes the tension of the dyad. Any other number of persons is simply reducible to, again, is just superfluous. 18. There are only 3 religions that claim to be Trinitarian: Roman Catholicism, Protestant, and Orthodoxy. Roman Catholicism and Protestant do not have the doctrine of energies, right? So how does the personal God enter into time and space and actually be there so you can experience and obtain that? You need a doctrine of energy. I mean, there's a lot of other defeaters you could go in that would make knowledge impossible. I'm just focusing on one aspect. Well, why not Roman Catholic? It's like, because. And again, what you can't do, because it's revelatory theism and not autonomous, you can't be like, well, what if I pick some of this from the epistemic smorgasbord and add energy? Like, then you're doing it yourself. It's not what is it, DYI? Do it your DYS, DYS, do it yourself. Didn't I just show that? It's not. So no, you can't just pick and build your own system. Well, I'll just add a little bit of this. What if I'm Roman Catholic and Protestant? I'll take some of the doctrine of energies. I'll minus out the filioque. I'll reject nominalism and add in essentialism a little bit. Do you not see what a joke that is? Like, obviously, revelatory theism is not an a priori copy and paste from another religion. That's called autonomous epistemology, and we refuted that. So yeah, if God's not truly present in the world, immanent, utterly, the negation. So I don't know why I put this. Utterly transcendent. If he's utterly transcendent and he's not immanent in the world, how are you going to know him? You're stuck in your mind, reasoning again, presupposing that you can even reason of this causality without establishing what the necessary conditions for those are. So you've refuted yourself again. God can't be known, then he can't be obtained as a necessary possible. If God cannot be obtained as a necessary condition of possibility, then you can't make those second order claims. That knowledge exists, that I know that Roman Catholicism is true, that I know God exists, like, because that's dependent on knowledge existing. You haven't obtained the conditions for the possibility of knowledge. Therefore, there is no other options on that. Orthodoxy and the Orthodox conception of God must be true by impossible to the contrary. And guess what? That's what's revealed. I don't even need to go to this. Is there sufficient evidence that God revealed himself in or absolutely? Then I don't even need to go to the impossibility of contrary. Why? Because that's a justification, and that's justified true belief. I don't have to go through every possible objection that the gas station next door exists or doesn't exist to be justified in believing that it does, and if it does, then I acknowledge. So, and because orthodoxy uniquely as a whole claims to be the truth, if you're justifying them, then it naturally excludes the others. QED, there you go. They wanted to see it, there it is. And they're going to, do you think that's going to change their mind? You think they're going to be like, oh, I see the argument now. All right. Yes, PJ Lysol, exactly. That's exactly what St. Gregory said. The one and the many find themselves gathered and circumcised in the Trinity. That's exactly. Three transcends the monad and dyad. It's not hard. Like, it really is not. If it's hard, it means there's something inside of you that you need to go in and fix. And you need to introspect and figure out, like, why am I having a problem? Because it's not an intellectual. It's not like, I know some of you people were saying, oh, I'm a slow boy. It's not that. Because it's actually really easy. Slow boys should be able to get that. That means there's something else going on that you need to kind of inspect and figure out. Anyway, I don't understand the 4-point. How do you get a number 4? There's only a couple different ways. 2 plus 2 equals 4. 1 plus 3 equals 4. There's different ways. I'm just saying there's different ways to add up to 4. Because somebody's asking, like, why God can't be a quadrinity. It's because whatever you would add up to be 4, those principles are the principles we were just discussing. Either 1, 2, or 3 added up in different ways. So does that make sense? I'm not understanding, Pansy, why can't they be opposites again? Well, God, like, why can't God be opposed to himself and be God at the same time? Like, it should be pretty straightforward. It means he's God and not God, and God, like, it would literally just be a contradiction. So God's personal, so it means there's another who's not him. So God is both God and not God at the same time, which is a contradiction. All right, let's go to Society chats. Does that make sense, Andrew? Why not a quadrinity? What is 4 made up of? It's the same principles that we just discussed. So it would be, in other words, it would be like, well, you just didn't listen to what the previous argument is. It's either one monad, dyad, or triad. It can't be monad or dyad, so it must be triad. So if somebody says 4 or 5 or something, like, what are those numbers made up of? 1, 2, combinations of 1, 2, and 3. So it's like, okay, we're back to the same original discussion. Let's repeat. It's either monad, dyad, or triad. It can't be monad or dyad, so it must be triad. Okay. Again, not hard. It's literally arithmetic at like a 5-year-old. 1, 2, and 3. Doesn't even require any like. Can you elaborate on my father Demetrius Stanley with eternity and time, how this relates to the eschatonic contradicts evolutionary theory? I have no idea what that means. I mean, I have a whole lecture on I'm trying to think how I don't know how specifically I haven't thought about how that could contradict time the evolutionary theories, but I have a whole lecture series. I mean, I've given lectures on the various notions of time, chronology, kairos, uh, the aeon, the created eternal time, right, and the time that transcends time, right? The gods, like the fathers talk about a timeless time or ever moving rest and stuff like that. Uh, the eschaton will be just as the law is not done away with, but renewed. Christ says, behold, I make all things new. He restores chronological time through kairotic, which is not chronological. So it's not limited by the kind of dialectic of chronology that the present can't be both present and future at the same time or same point. So they're dialectically opposed. Kairos, not only can they are. So eternity, there's different things we can mean by eternity, but in the liturgy, kairos and eternity is ushered into and is renewing time, chronological. So there will be a day to day, right? There is a chronology in the eschaton, but it's renewed by eternity. I don't know what that's like, but obviously you get to experience the past, present, and future all at once while still being in chronological time, right? I mean, we already kind of get glimpses. That's what the liturgy is. You're experiencing the Schmemann says, Father Schmemann, the already, i.e. the future, not yet. Already, so Kairos has come into chronological time, but at the chronological time, not yet. The end is not yet. But you're experiencing. I don't really know how or what, like, that would contradict evolutionary theories. I mean, other than they don't have that conception of time, theological time or the eschaton. No, strong $20. I was thinking about Orthodox view Eugenia Constitutum by my priest. $20. Thank you. I can't remember. To be honest, I just blanked on what the critique of her is. Um, I've had no personal problems with. I I don't think there's anything theologically incorrect. I think she upset some people in terms of kind of practice, like, and blurring the line, like wearing a cantor's kind of cassock and an awarded cross. It starts making it look like she is a teacher liturgically, um, has given sermons and stuff. I think that's why people got upset with. But I haven't heard her say anything theologically incorrect. But I'm not omniscient, so I don't know. There's things I don't know. Somebody asked, why does two mean separation? Well, just think about it. What does one mean? It literally means not many. 2, 3, 4, 5, that's all not many. Okay? Is one the same as two? So either this is one thing or it's two. If it's two things, it's not one thing. Does that make sense? And if it's one, it's not two different cups. It's literally that simple. Maybe it's just people never thought about what numbers are. They just mechanically add, like, I don't know. Like, to me it's really simple. Like, one isn't two and two isn't one. And if something's two, it's not one. It's not the same thing. If it's one, it's not two different things. I I really don't know how to explain it any more simply than. Yeah, Father, remember she was with us. I don't have any personal problems with her. Like, again, if I was her spiritual father, I'd probably be like, "Yeah, don't blur the distinctions between a woman's role in the church." But that's just a practical. I don't know. Like, again, haven't read all her, but like, I don't know if, like. But as far as everything I've seen that she's. How do you account for stuff like paraconsistent logic? Paraconsistent logic is not nobody believes that's a universal logic of all things. Otherwise, it'd be refutation. So paraconsistent logic just means something intuitively. There are things that don't fall into a dialectic. Is that not? And right, there's things that aren't always either or. Can you develop a logic to deal with those specific things when they come up? Yes, like that doesn't get you out of that. There are things that are either or that really are dialectics. And again, if they think they can, then be like, well, is either paraconsistent logic true or false? Right? Is that you could just refer back to paraconsistent logic. So it just shows you paraconsistent logic is a sublogic. It's not the logic. So you'd have to need the logic to deny. Isn't it amazing how hard they try? I love it. I love seeing you atheists squirm, literally having to make up things in your head just to avoid the inevitable. Literally become illogical to get around the inevitable and what is just so apparent. They can just apply, but like, okay, the other thing is they forfeit debate. I mean, I could just apply that to all of our statements. There was another. House Challenge 499. Can you help me understand the validity of the miracle of the saints? What's the 7 U's with Pantalemon? Who's my? I don't know if I'm familiar with that. What needs to be explained? Either it's a miracle, it's like, what does it mean? I need to know what the question is exactly. Typically, I can't explain miracles. That's part of the. You can know them, but can you explain them away? No, 1 second. I'm trying to look up. So, St. Pantaleon was tortured, right? With iron hooks, burned, thrown in boiling tar, cast in the sea with a stone, he remained unharmed by divine protection. Eventually, Maximilian ordered his beheading. When the soldiers took Pantaleon to an olive tree for execution, the soldiers struck him with a sword, but the sword miraculously became soft like wax and inflicted no wound. Described in multiple sources. After Pantaleon completed his prayer, a voice from heaven called to him and instructed the soldiers to proceed with the execution. When he was finally beheaded, milk flowed from his wounds, and the olive tree to which he was tied miraculously bore fruit, leading many witnesses to convert. Says there's no connection to 7 U's. The sleepers. So those are 2 different events. So from my research here, it's saying there is no connection. But obviously, we see stories like this. It shows God is in control of life and death, not man. But God will not deny his saints martyrdom. And so he eventually grants, after giving the message to the world, I'm Lord. That's the takeaway. Chase K, $10 in relation to my question with Father Stanley's eternity and time and how it contradicts evolution theories is in how they can't ground speciation in time. Having on top, I don't get it. I'm lost. I don't know if evolution. I mean, time's a trick. is tricky. Does it have an ontology in itself? Um, there's just too much stuff, and like, do you have to have a particular view of time in terms of evolution? Like, I don't think so. So I'm not seeing how it contradicts, or they couldn't theoretically. Like, there's other problems with evolution, but I just don't see it connected to this issue of time. Like, I don't think. I think it's kind of open. An evolutionist could accept multiple, I mean, various views of time. Typically conceived, time does not have its own ontology. Um, Physicists think it does, so that this time is some out there. Maybe there's some type of Newtonian kind of conception of time. Philosophers generally think that it's it is contingent upon minds. There's no out, like, if you erased all the minds, deleted all the minds, there would be no time. You just have motion. So yeah, I'm not seeing the, sorry Chase, I'm just not seeing the contradiction in. Okay, man, it's $5. So if God was a monad, there wouldn't be any relationships between anything. Yeah, I mean, think about this too. To be a relationship, someone has to relate something. So no, there wouldn't be any. And people would be like, well, I can conceive of objects relating to each other through property. It's like, what did you just throw in there? You threw a mind in, I can conceive of, like, so it's literally meaningless to, if there is no person to relate, there are no relations, right? Just almost kind of similar with time. Like, if there are no minds to number motion, there's no time. You can't actually speak that way. But part of us logically or intellectually obtaining the necessary, or even ontologically, that we become one with God, who is the necessary conditions for the possibility of knowledge, requires that the two opposite terms be able to be related by something that isn't opposites. That's personhood. Contemporary Companion, $5. Thank you for being with us, Rod. Thank you. Still martyred. Torture is still a martyrdom. Like, I'm obviously God. For whatever reason, allows them. He needs them to live on. I mean, we all die, but yeah, the torture is a type of martyrdom. Yeah, Chase, I just don't see. I don't think whatever theory of evolution, whether it's Darwinian, neo-Darwinian, phyletic gradualism, or that it commits you to any particular view of time. Like, I just. And is, even though they're wrong, you have theistic evolutionists that are going to argue, right, that would accept kairotic, like, time too. So I just don't think that's where you want to go. Do you have any suggestion of a woman saint I should read about? I mean, the lives of saints. Yeah, one of my goddaughters is Saint Parasceva. Read about that. My wife's Saint Catherine, Saint Isidora, uh, Saint Olga. I'm just thinking, wonderful saints that come. Both Saint Olgas. Now we have a new Saint Olga here. First woman saint in the Americas. Saint Helena. I've contributed chapters to a book, but no book, just one book by myself. I'm going back to look at. Thank you, everybody, for the birthday wishes. Had a great birthday. We saw Billy Strings in Missoula on Saturday. I know a strong. Remember, $20. I think I already answered that. Senrez says a lot of them are 15. Yeah, like, why would you listen to a 15, 16-year-old? They're literally sophomoric. Like, they know nothing and think that they know everything. And it just shows how dumb, like just going through some basics. I think the best thing is not to give them attention. If they are having problems with their ego, thinking they're smart when they're not, the last thing you want to do is talk to them and entertain their ideas as if they're smart. They should, like I always say, like, proper use of shame. They should be shamed as children and be like, you're retarded and you're 15 years old and nobody cares about what you have to think. Like, that's the best way to deal with teenagers. Like, grow up, go to school, learn a few things, then come back 10 years from now, we can talk. Who's Corinth? Also, most of these people, I'm not gonna lie, are autistic. Like, oh, Robert Audi's book is good. Okay, I think we got to most. B Scott, $2. Thank you for all the suggested blessing. Thank you so much. The 16-year-old they're talking about. Oh, there you go. There was a point I was gonna make. A vegan, like, so he's nutrient, but like, so now we're like not only a 16-year-old atheist, somebody who's nutrient deprived and can't actually probably hold their thought for more than 3 seconds. Like, there you go. And they just constantly get smashed and refuted, and they think they're winning. Like, or there was something about Protestantism that I was going to bring up. Oh no, it wasn't Protestant. It was Roman Catholicism. Bad arguments. Top 10 bad arguments. Let's just Corinth. When you think a like deprived, starving, vegan 16-year-old who has brain damage, who's autistic, has good arguments, and we should respond to them. Number one. Then you need help. Number two, the Roman Catholic Papist objection. Which church? That is so low. I just can't, like, it's. I mean, what? What? That's not an objection. If they're all one church. So notice, I think there's a fallacy. There's a couple fallacies in that question. We should just call Corinth's mom and be like, do you know that your kid is out being a tard and embarrassing himself? Like, don't respond to these people. I'm telling you. It boosts their ego. These people need to be made fun of. Autism doesn't cause it. It's just a lot of these people, like, autism's real and it's out there and it complicates matters, is the art. Like, it makes it difficult. It's a real phenomenon that, even as an educator, I have to be able to, like, figure out. It makes it difficult to communicate certain stuff in certain ways. But ultimately, yeah, there's a spiritual problem that, I mean, look. No, they really are. Like, I've been teaching for 15, like, I can see the rise in autism. Um, but what I'm saying is, even if, like, we cured autism or something, like, it's not like the problem's gonna go away because there is an underlying problem. But it's just in terms of communicating an idea, like, yeah, you better be able to identify, certain learning disabilities and stuff like that, because you're going to have difficulties communicating certain ideas. As an educator, we always have to be kind of aware of, like, what learning disabilities people have, where are they coming from, how do they understand stuff, what do they struggle with. So V Scott, don't respond to this guy. Have everybody ignore. That's the best thing. And again, remember, suppose a 16-year-old did come up with a good argument. That might be willing to work with that. But like, none of these people are producing anything worth philosophical attention. What knowledge does he have? Like, this is why are you guys. Which church? What fallacy could I identify? Well, it's red herring because it's getting away from the one issue. The what's actually the heart of the issue. Is there is the only way to be one is papacy? I mean, what if we applied that to mathematics? The only way that something could be one is if Pope, like, it's a category. Like, no, that's not. There's many different ways something could be unified. Um, and it's begging the question: what's exactly? You're assuming the exact thing that you need to prove that the churches aren't one. The churches are one. The one faith, the one church. So you saying which church begs the question that the different churches aren't one. So it's begging the question. It's also a red herring to distract you from the main issue. And it's the Pope fallacy. Because notice if I bring up all the different rites, 21 different rites, and how many different languages are mass done in? Which church? Well, they're all one because they're under the Pope. Do you see? It's like, well, they're all one because we have conciliarity. So conciliarity and synodality, which is marked in Acts from the beginning, is how things can be one. Patristic PTSD. Yeah, I have ADD. Like, you just have to learn. It presents challenges, especially coupled with other stuff too. Like, I have to learn how to deal with ADD. Although I'm not sure the ADD is actually a disability. I actually think that autism is actual legitimate disability. I think people with ADD just don't fit into the standardized kind of conformity of like the way that you're supposed to think linearly and stuff like that. But I don't actually think, I do believe there are real cognitive disabilities though. Like, um, and God gives everybody crosses, but we do nobody favors to be like, well, disabilities are now superpowers. It's like, no, God can use somebody where they're at despite their disability. We got to be able to say like that's our actual real disability. Yeah, I don't agree with ADD as a disability. I think it's labeled one, but I don't think. I think it's just like sociologically in terms of education. It's like ADD just don't. I think it's a different cognitive function. I actually believe that autism actually is a cognitive impairment. Like there's a real. And there's a lot of similarities between ADD and people were like, "Oh, you're autistic." I mean, I'm like, I'm not autistic. I have ADD. I can obsess about. I'm not OCD either, but like I get stuck on certain stuff, right, and obsess about like over and over. But that comes from a different like area. But I know it's a real cognitive impairment because one of my best friends has a non-vert like ask somebody whose child is like extremely like non-functioning if they think it's a superpower, just a different way of thinking versus a disability. Like they'll tell you. Like, so I have friends who actually have children who are non-functioning, non-verbal, and it's extremely difficult. So either it's something totally different, or it's the same thing. It's an actual cognitive impairment and disorder, objectively, not just sociologically. that just comes on a spectrum. Like, yeah, and it's not the best. It's not even clear. It might be an umbrella term too. There might be other, which also happened with ADD as well. It was kind of an umbrella term just to like catch all kind of. So here's my question: how can this? Is he actually 16 years old? I think what you start to like, how can a 16-year-old have a good grasp of philosophy? He was reading philosophy when he was 10 years. Is like he's a John Stuart Mill or something. Most of these people are using AI. They're pseudo intellectuals. That's why if they ever get in a room with or online with a real philosopher, I mean, they're throwing out phrases and kind of general concepts that they might have picked up from. I doubt, unless he's just off scale genius like John Stuart Mill, he has a good grasp of philosophy. Now, for those that aren't trained in philosophy, it may look like that because you just don't know all the. But like, you get them to the real professor of philosophy, and they'll be like, "This kid is it's a child. Like, they don't have no idea what they're talking about." That's my. I don't know for sure. That's my general guess. And that's why Plato, first of all, I agree with Plato. People shouldn't be even arguing until they're 30 years old because Plato says exactly that. Young people think it's a game and will argue. They're sophists. They'll argue for the sake of arguing. And then, Plato says in the Republic, they get an ego having won some easy debates and then they get crushed. And then what do? They become relativists and abandon philosophy. Like, there is no, it's all just a game and I lost and stuff like that. So I think we should actually have institute laws of the state to ban people and they could be arrested and thrown in prison for debating between before 30. Like, I'm just totally convinced Plato's Republic. Um, Most of the things. We get a nocturnal council together. You've been found guilty and you have to go to re-education camps and schools. Like, that sounds awesome to me. Think about how much of the stupid stuff would be solved if we brought back in Plato's laws the nocturnal council. If we just gate kept, like if we had a philosophical nocturnal council that just ruled over all. And also, I would give license, like, you'd have to get a license to think, and you could have infractions just like a driver's license, and you could lose your license. Like, you wouldn't be able to make arguments like, well, you're not allowed to have an opinion anymore. I think I think that would fix everything. Either that or argument from homelessness. Doesn't really matter what your argument is, you're homeless. What did we say? I mean, we're all trying to solve homelessness, but we didn't realize that homelessness actually is the solution to most of our problems in life. You're worried about how you're going to pay rent. You won't be once you're homeless. You're worried about dealing with stupid 16-year-olds online. No, you won't. He's homeless. He doesn't even have a computer to argue anymore. Think about that. Um, you think all the Skittles stuff is going to matter? You think homeless people are going to be painting rainbow flags on the, like, that doesn't matter. They're homeless. Like, they got more important things to think about how they're going to eat. I mean, that's the other way. I think we should have set up a course on homelessness and how it. Yeah, you got to read Plato's art. It's hilarious. It's so true. Plato's course on homelessness. How losing everything, um, how I lost everything and gained the entire world and saved my soul. Having issues with pride and narcissism? No, you're not. You're homeless now. You don't. You're humbled. Let me think of another one. B. Scott, I don't think it's just we started noticing because I can go back in my memory. There was only one person in high school that I can think back on. I'm like, that person actually probably had autism. So, yes, there is an overdiagnosis, but at the same time, there really is a phenomenon of, and I think there's multiple causes to that. I think one of the causes, too, that a lot of people don't talk about is, yeah, homelessness can cure autism because I think a lot of this comes from, think about this. The internet came out when I was a kid, dial up, right? We didn't even have internet in high school. Like, I think one of the computer classes, I think the teacher had internet to look up something, like, but the rest of the computers, as far as I remember, weren't even hooked up to the internet. Um, it didn't kind of take off until later in the 90s where everybody kind of had the internet. Um, my wife and I were talking about uh says, "Do you remember growing up anybody addicted to video games?" I'm like, that's crazy. I remember friends that were like they played more video games. I remember like one of my friends in my neighborhood, Benji, had he was one of those kids that got all the video games. So he played a lot more than the rest of us on Nintendo Entertainment System, and before that was Atari and Commodore and stuff like that. Uh, but he wasn't on playing video games all day. Like we were out riding bikes and stuff like so he played more than I. He was like somebody that played a lot of games, but like I'm like he wasn't constantly on video game. Like and he's the one person I could think about that played the most. People are outside doing stuff the majority of the time. So now think about you have people who are raised on the internet, all plugged in all the time. I see people give their 3-year-old kids when we're out about the restaurants, they give them tablets and they're just like that. The way that you process information, like the way that you neurally, biologically, neurobiologically develop the pathways and how we think about stuff, um, that affects it, right? Like a lot of things affect. And so the way that you process information in human relations is think about this. What do you think happens to a child when they're not taught, like, don't have contact, human contact, like physical touch as a child? They they they're underdeveloped. They have actual cognitive and social problems. I mean, the extreme would be like a feral child or something like that. So we know really like actual neural networks atrophy and like the brain kind of redesigns itself. So think about now we put people in an environment where their only human relations, the primary human relations, are through a virtual medium. And they spend all their time online outside of. That's basically what the Z generation, it started probably with millennials, was brought up in. That's how they learn information, that's how they process. Also, everything they don't have, because we have search now, because you're online all the time, you have a search engine. Now you have AI. So what does it do? It picks out something very specific and it delivers it to you. So you're not required to read the great books and all the books trying to find information in which presents a coherent kind of whole within your right brain, so that even in the left brain, the individual pieces are subsumed under the master, right? The right brain. What happens? Right brain becomes deficient and everything becomes fragmented and analytic and propositional in the left brain. Okay, so the emissary becomes the master. Is why am I blanking? Doctor blank that, the master and emissary. Ian, go, Chris. The divided brain. Okay, so also I think because of the internet and the difficulty of monitoring stuff too, the exposure at a very young age to sexually explicit images, we do now know that the brain rewires itself. This is a leading cause of gender dysphoria. And this is all rooted biologically in the brain. That's what I'm saying. They're not just social disorder, like anomalies, or like they're actually physically, biologically damages to the neurophysiological brain. I think that's why we're seeing a rise. And it's like, look what we're doing. Like, we're literally rewiring and redesigning a deficient like brain. Like, so doesn't that make sense? If social, personal, this kind of holistic is in the right brain, and that's actually deficient now, and the left brain is the master, that's why we're seeing the rise. And God knows what polypharmacy does to that too, and foods. I mean, there's obviously the gut biome and how people are eating affects both development in the brain and mental illnesses and stuff like that. So I don't think it's just an overdiagnosis. I actually think there's an epidemic of issues. That doesn't mean they're any less. Everybody has equal dignity and value, but if we're actually we have to actually be like, that's an actual real disability and cognitive impairment. It's not a superpower. It's not. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going with this technocratic nightmare. Be like, well, it's all fine. We can just continue to proceed into the future learning this way and having human interactions through the mistakes that we've done. Like, yeah, there's no strong screen time usage at 1 year old directly correlate with high prevalence of autism. See, I knew it. Like, I don't even have. I know enough about how the brain works and how these things that I could actually make, without even seeing the research, a connection. But like, there's got to be a connection there. Yeah, and who knows? It could be handed down genetically. Once you have that abnormality, like. God knows what vaccines do. Like, more information's coming out about the way apps. Yeah, like, and the way again, there's something to be said about the slow processing and assimilation of information. that's how a healthy mind, like, you should be able to reflect, like, this is what enables introspection, um an inner monologue, let alone dialogue, right? That requires slowly thinking through stuff. So what does technology do? It gives information faster and faster, more and more fragmented. That's why it's a real thing that people, like 15% of people reporting they lack introspection, same percentage, 15 to 20% are reporting they have no inner monologue. Where do you think these things come? It's like it's the different social media apps and the way that we're processing information and just the internet and technology in general. That would be enough. And then you just add other stuff. No, strong. I would like to. That's a good. Thanks for the suggestion. And now look how much time people spend on video games. Like, so I gave you an example of what it was like for me growing up in the 80s and 90s. And my wife asked me yesterday, "Do you know anybody that was addicted to video games?" Not a single person. Isn't that crazy? Because the games were different. They weren't literally designed to keep you on there, right, with dopamine hits as long as possible. Also notice with you didn't have what is the name of, what am I blanking? I keep blanking on names today. With the different games where, like, you're connected to, I mean, Discord started off this way. You're playing a game with like 50 other people um online throughout the world. What is that called? Why am I blanking on? I mean, you get it with the first person shooter game, but there's all kinds of, there's World of Warcraft and different stuff like that where you all can log. Notice what happens. The virtual becomes the real. So your social interactions that should be primarily outside a face to face are now replaced with a virtual world. And the virtual world becomes, everything's inverted, right? And think about how much time you spend. You don't think that's going to affect your, like, sociability and your brain and stuff? Like, we didn't have that. There, like I said, none of those video games were connected to the internet. And we have people just spend all day on. Isn't that scary? Grand Theft, oh, GTA Auto. It's still buffering. Now think about why people also struggle. I can't find a woman today. It's like you're just socially retarded. Like, I'm telling you, if you got off of video games and were spending out meeting, just socializing with people in general, guess what? You'd actually find it a lot easier to meet women. And I think people just generally have, I know from myself, with ADD, have a real difficult time with time management. I think people in general do. Um, I waste enough time. I don't need to add more vices in. Somebody was asking me why I don't play video games. I'm like, I wouldn't have vices that did like time waste stuff. And it takes up, so it's not just like, oh, I went out for a few hours at night and I could have been reading a book or building my courses or something like that. Video games are not a couple hours anymore. Yeah, I have a family member went through the same thing that was had a truancy, like literally looked like they're on drug, like because they stayed up all night, like, and they're always like, at least I'm not on drugs. I'm like, actually, it'd be better. It would be easier if you were on illicit drugs, because you can't get drugs all the time, illicit drugs all the time. There's not a steady supply. It's not socially acceptable, right? There's at least some kind of checks and balances that make it for like you going too far down the line, or at least you're able to like you can help. Think about your. We have a whole society that has made an identity out of the gamer, right? So it's socially acceptable. You can just be, and then you can be plugged into your drug 24/7. And what we started noticing as a lot of us clergy, um, watch the right, like, and depression. Ask how many people. I would love to get a study on how much screen time or game time do you play, and how much of those people report being depressed. Have you ever like feelings of despondency, depression? Obviously, there's a connection there because what you're doing is you're dopamine deprived. These people, if you take them out in a beautiful sunset or walk through the mountains, will not get the same dopamine hits and joy out of God's beautiful created things as somebody who doesn't, because just like a meth or crack addict, because they're dopamine depleted. They've been up here at this level, right? That's the only thing that can actually give them, just so they're actually depressed all the time. That's another good question. I haven't thought about that. Gaming and disassociation. Yeah, lack of vitamin D. I mean, think about how. So that's what's really difficult. Like, is there anything intrinsically wrong with a, you know, like a game that's not like evil or something like that? Like, no, but um, I don't know. Maybe it should be played like you'd play a board game or something like that. Cards are like, um, the difficulty is most games are designed to keep you in and addicted and getting dopamine hits. Uh, and so it's gonna be really difficult to be like, well, I can just play a game, like a game of cards or a board game or something, or watch TV. It's like it's really difficult because they've designed it so it's not going to be that way. Um, and then people think those are real friendships too. Online, it's like you don't know who these people are, and it's no surrogate for real friendship. That's what the problem. So if you have a lot of spare time, what I would say is that you should list priorities. What do I want to do in life? Um, what are things that are more, like I said, nothing wrong with having some entertainment, but in your leisure time, if you're putting that above other things that are actually would be more beneficial, like maybe reading or studying something, praying, uh you've got a problem. Like, how well are you using your leisure time, your free time? Are you exercising? Are you going out into nature and stuff like that? And the more you do that, you'll start realizing like video games just not that interesting. Um, your life would improve by radically cutting down the time. I'm telling you. So for me, again, it's like I already waste enough time. Like, there's no reason why I would add another vice into. All right, let's go to other questions. Oh my gosh, I got these every time. I don't get it. Um, one of the universities I teach in online is a university in Maine. Every year semester they make me take these preventing sexual harassment. Like, well, why do I have to take that? I'm not even in person at the college. Because online you could make a mistake. I've never had to take one of these courses at Carroll College. Like, it's crazy. Like, I have to complete this stupid video. They're the HR videos, is what. It's not just cool. Like, these are things that you probably in your workplace have to. These stupid. No, hold on. I'm back. It's just you. The problem's not me, it's you. Your buffering is your fault. Why would buffering be my fault from my end? Weird. YouTube could be a problem too. Scrolling. So I have to put this away. Wait a minute. I thought there was no liturgy Saturday. One second. Something about the chalice set and patents. Um, yeah, I knew that. Actually went a long time before getting a smartphone. Uh, I was working one of my first jobs when I moved back from Ireland at Azusa Pacific University. I had a flip phone, and it was great. Life was much easier, but one of the things, my work stuff became more and more difficult to actually do, like stuff within the classroom, responding to emails and stuff like that. Um, some of the things in the class, as far as um, games that I would do in philosophy and stuff like that, I couldn't do, and I was just like, oh, I'm literally being forced into through my job to get a smartphone. I did, and life got more complicated, get more. So I keep that away. I really try to make an effort to identify scrolling. I still struggle with that. First of all, I've got to put that aside. If I'm in a if I'm around somebody, I have to put it aside because it'll become like I'll just not be attentive and pull that out and put that as a prioritization over my physical conversation with somebody, especially with my wife. I gotta set that aside. And then I've got to be attentive about scrolling. Father Russell says if you pull out your phone and you don't specifically have an idea of what you want to look up, you're addicted. I'm like, oh man. I will not open up my phone until I do my morning prayers. My prayer rule before we do these. There's just things I have to kind of implement in but it's especially running Patristic Faith and working at the college and university. It's about there's no way that I could do it with a flip phone. I couldn't go back to. It's just we've gone past the point of no return on. Yeah. And you'll notice your mood. You're scrolling because you're bored and you're not dealing with like the issues that you need to deal with. All right, let's move on. We talked about coffee with Barb. If you're following Coffee with Barb, what can I say? You've got problems. I mean, you just got to be a liberal or a normie to follow that lady. She's literally been removed from being a nun. She's most likely an operative, intelligence of some sort. She's used a platform like Putin, Russianist, pro-Ukraine. People are just like, you're so brave for sticking up for a satanic country. Like, can you? That's what I don't get. That doesn't mean I'm pro-Russia or think Russia's great or like everything. This is why these people have no like nuances whatsoever. It's like with Republican Democrat stuff and Trump. I'm like, I'm not a MAGA Trump. Like, can't you have some nuance with like, yeah, I'm glad he did this. He's an idiot when it comes to. No, you gotta have to choose sides. You're a MAGA or you're a Democrat, you know. It's like the same thing. It's like I can identify like Ukraine is a terrible country. It's a satanic, it's funded by the satanic elites. NATO. Look at the history, why am I blanking on the I'm trying to tip of my tongue. Gladio, the color revolutions. It's literally the bad guys, the Anglo-American propped up to make a fake gay antichrist country, and like that's the side you Orthodox normies chose to. That doesn't make me a Putinite and falling for Russian propaganda. I want that regime destroyed. I don't want people to die, but like it's like the more normie liberals talk. So I was telling somebody the other day, these people that keep like, you know, like fascists should die. This is fat. It's like the more that you keep saying that, you're really actually making fascism look awesome. If that's the opposite of what you are, do you not realize you're literally gonna make everybody just be like, dang, like you guys are the. That's it. That's it. Liberals, leftists, and Antifa are the best apologists for fascism. They're gonna make everybody like awesome, dude. Let's bring back Mussolini and Franco regimes, and like you see that, right? Franco was a Christian fascist. Yeah, that's why a lot of the Roman Catholics like that form of. I don't. I mean, obviously Mussolini. Um, he wasn't pushing for the Roman, but obviously there was a connection with Roman Catholicism as well. But it's like the same people. Like you keep pushing this pro NAFO Ukraine stuff, you're gonna be the best apologist to be like, I want that regime destroyed. Like, what a they're the best apologists for. Like, isn't that ironic? Ah, it could be the elite's design too. Exactly. Some guy at the guy at the concert was like talking. Always there's people talking like politics. I had a sneezing fit. I was outside. I was like sneezing. I was like, and he was like, "Oh, you know, bless you." I didn't say God bless you. He said, um, I'd also say, by the way, just in the fascism, the Iron Guard probably had elements of Like it's hard. Fascism is kind of difficult to define too because it's a historical. It's something placed historically in reaction to. It's literally to capitalism, the dialectics between capitalism and Marxism. It's literally the political theory formed against. Um, but yes, I think in Romania you could say that the Iron Guard might have had elements of that, and they were Orthodox. I think most of them. There were some that weren't. Anyways, uh, going back to this guy says, "Bless you." He says, "Oh, you must be allergic to America." I'm like, weird thing to say. I'm like I'm allergic to existence. And he's like, "No, man." First of all, it was like a weird to the Billy Strings concert. I was actually shocked the amount of deadheads that I was like, man, this is like going back to when I was a kid, went to the Dead concert. Um, and so I was like, all right, whatever, dude. And he was like, well, you didn't find my joke funny. You must be a conservative. And I was like, you wouldn't even know my, you have no idea what my politics are. I don't even think they'd be able to process it because they're in the dialectics. You're either a liberal or conservative. Um, I started like roasting the dude. Like his buddy was like, because he's like, "Hey man, you like this something?" And I'm like, "It's all right." I'm like, "It's just all right." And he's like, "What's your problem, bud?" And his friend was like, "Hey man, you're like me." He's like, "You're trolling my buddy." I'm like, "Yeah, like this guy, dude." It was a really weird, funny conversation. Um, because I just kept messing with him. I'm like, "You mess with me in the beginning, I'm gonna mess with you." Anyways, they liked it though. That's the weird thing. They thought I was like, um, yeah, it is it's interesting. It's a type of socialism centered around national identity. That's a good way to put it. Rather than communism, with socialism centered around the worker identity. You also you have to look up to. It's not capitalism. Um, it's corporatism is the economic theory. Hyper nationalistic. autocracy, it's anti-democracy. But these people are just brainwashed to be like this, like they have to, like, again, their identity is tied to that. Isn't that funny? It's like what people are joking with the liberal, like the the leftists and liberals, the Democrats, are anti-Trump, but their identity are like Protestant. Like they can't live with him and they can't live without him. That's a perfect phrase. But like you, first of all, you voted him in. I was telling my godson the other day, and I'm like, do you know that liberals actually voted Trump? Like they made Trump possible. They created Trump. That's I can't live with him. I can't live without him. The more that the only reason why Trump got is because of like they pushed so hard. They literally created a phenomenon called Trump and MAGA. Isn't that amazing? It wasn't the people that they're blaming, conservatives and Republicans. It's like, no, Democrats actually created Trump. The phenomenon of Trump and MAGA. Like, isn't that hilarious? Yeah, you just net like politics is important, but it's like fourth, fifth thing down the line. Like, just don't fall into the dialectics too. Be like, oh, I'm not of this world. I'm invisible. Politics doesn't matter. Like, are you a monk? Like, what's matter? Like, of course it matters. It's just a fourth, fifth thing down the like your face first. But like, see how easy people be like, I don't put my trust in princes and chariots, and I don't either. But you still need to be involved in politics at some level. Just don't make it an idol. Don't put it a first, second thing. Put like get it down the list. That's all. I was up blowing people's mind. I'm like, do you know there's actually fascist saints in the Orthodox, but there's no Marxist saints? How do they answer? Well, they're Fordham's freaking out that that happened uh when all the Romanian saints last year were made saints. Some were connected to fascism. They're like, that shouldn't be. Just love to see him squirm, don't you? Yeah, it's the royal orthodoxy is always the royal path. Escapes the dialectic. All right, what else do we have going on here? There's so much funny stuff to cover. Destiny's son is a groiper. That's news. It is a really weird world that we live in, isn't it? Um, here's another dialectic. I can't tell. Is this? There's another dialectic. Speaking about politics. Have you seen this one? Stop me if you've seen this one. Oh, whoops. I'm on your... I don't want either one. Gavin Newsom or JD Vance. Gavin Newsom says, I miss the scarf. It got me lots of men. No doubt he's a good looking guy, right? And JD Vance, nuts. Oh my gosh, I didn't even notice where they were. Forgive me. That's disgusting. Oh, I forgot about K-pop. That isn't even a... Is K-pop even a thing? Dude, this guy, dude, he is like a Cole poster, right? Cole Poper poster. Poper poster. Pooper poster. Cole poop poster. Pope. Pooper. Oh, this. These fake videos. Look at these. Oh, yeah, Spurgeon, dude. Oh. The icon not made by hands. Yeah, that's right. I forgot to mention that. What is... I can't even hear this. Let's see. Voice of Reason. I haven't followed, but I do want to talk a little bit about...
I now once again have the robust prayer life that we all should have.
Did it just freeze? Oh, I generally feel bad for... Pray for him. I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Man, I've actually... That's really emotional. That was legit, dude. That was for real. Yeah, Christian Mara, good point. So pray for him. You know, I know that he's, Roman Catholic, and he it would have been really easy, you know, to attack him when he's down, because, he's the opposite side. I don't think Voice of Reason, like, he's not like other people that are legitimately subversives. Like, he's, on the other side of, uh, he made mistakes running, in the Ubi debate and running from Jay and stuff like that. But I don't think he's a bad subversive person. So he's not somebody I would identify was our enemy or something like that. But it might have been really easy when those allegations came out to run with those rumors. I think even as somebody who would be an enemy, he's not. I'm qualifying that. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Give him the benefit of the doubt, because Jay and I talked about this. Father Mahai did a video about rumors, how demonic they are, and I myself have been, attacked constantly. I know what it's like to be on the other end of false accusations and smear campaigns and stuff like that. So even like, let's say, especially with clergy, even if like I didn't like a Orthodox clergyman, I would always give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Until I know for sure. But let's take somebody like voice of reason. Don't negate, like, give them the benefit of the doubt. Have compassion on him. That maybe he made it said, like, you'll find out, but like he generally seems repentive. Like he generally seems like a good guy that might have made a mistake and stuff like that. Don't kick him when they're down. Give them the benefit of the doubt, but like, I don't know. But then people were like, "Why aren't you a hypocrite for like going after Sister Vasa or Barb or like enemy?" But like, no, that's different. First of all, those aren't rumors, allegations. These are people who have been constantly involved in doing bad stuff, right? Who are subverting the church. And there's those outside the Orthodox Church too, that, let's say, we call them the haters or something like that. Now, I'm not saying if you hear a rumor, run with it. Don't do that, even with the enemy. But what I'm saying is, does it mean you can't criticize somebody? No. And there's a big difference between believing a rumor without sufficient evidence and then spreading it. You're responsible, like, you're going to be judged for that. Doesn't matter if there are enemies. You're to love your enemy, and that's a specific example of how you can recognize they're wrong. But I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. That's a loving act, to love your enemy. So, however, there are other people, Voice of Reason is not one of those, who are enemies, who are subversives, who have constantly tried to, destroy people's lives, gone after Orthodox people and clergy in the Orthodox Church. There's nothing hypocritical about, like, identifying that and making a judgment about that. But like, those aren't rumors and conjectures. That's actual things that you can point to, and they're constantly involved in it. And some of these people are even in the Orthodox Church. Do you see the distinction there? Exposing somebody for crimes that they actually do, that are hurting, that and they're constantly involved. These people are constantly doing this. So it's not just like one episode. It's like, well, I heard this or this person did. It's like, no, they keep doing this kind of stuff. They're constantly engaged in hate against Orthodox and Orthodox clergy. They're constantly engaged in subversive acts and stuff like that. You have enough experience with them. If any of these people online, you realize they're not good people, and you can you can be justified in making a judgment that way. In fact, if I was like that, remember Scripture says, "Judge not, lest you be judged." It's not saying never make judgments. As much as you judge, you'll be judged. So I'd want to be judged by that standard. If I'm a scoundrel, subversive, bad faith person, I would say, yeah, I should be called out for that. That's what you shouldn't be. Is when you haven't done something wrong, when you're lying. So like, obviously you don't, or there's not enough, like, don't judge. You will judge. As Father Turbo says, these people are not just going to be judged in the final judgment by the same standard. They're going to be judged in this life. The things that they're doing, and this is not in a karmic sense, but God, for their own salvation or justice in the universe, everything that they're dishing out will be brought upon them and their family. And that's sad. That's why we actually do love our enemies. But like, as dumb and retarded as, just stop for your own sake and your own family. Don't do that, because Father Turbo is right. It's like, it'll come back to him in this life. God will actually allow that to happen. And that's a powerful point. But yeah, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. So did Jay. Like, he deserves his day in court. I don't know. Like, I've seen all kinds of slander and lie. Like, they could do that to him. Like, I don't know all the details of. And if he repents of whatever, like, good for him. He genuinely seems. Anyways, I think that's an important thing to talk about. So pray for him. God bless him. Yeah, see, like, once you've gone through something, what King says his father was falsely accused. They lost their house, lost his job, his car, his friends, social standing, despite. Yeah, so see what that can actually. And you know what? What a great witness to Vor. If we Orthodox, when he's down and out, when he's at the worst place, to show him love and compassion, that's more convincing than any arguments. So, like, be compassionate to him, pray for him. And I've been on the working on compassion the last couple months. To be able to separate the ideologies and the demonic influences that are controlling people. Like, even when somebody cuts you off or like flips you off in a car, just tell yourself, like, I don't know what they're going, like, what if they lost their kid? What if they lost their house or something? Like, they're like having the worst day of their life. It's gonna make you feel a little bit more compassionate. You establish boundaries, like, you get serious and be like, you man up face to face in their eyes and be like, that is something I'm not going to tolerate. And we're going to have real problems if you continue. And we're going to have boundaries in this relationship. Otherwise, we're going to have problems. We're going to have to, this is going to get much more serious. I think if you get that tone, just be like, I'm not going to allow it. You set I've had to do that with a lot of people. I'm like, I'm a pretty laid back guy until I'm not. I was the proto deacon up, and not that the deacons were doing anything wrong or something like that, but they were talking about other proto deacons and stuff, and how they kind of run the altar, because I was in charge of the altar. We had like 4 other deacons, and I'm like, I'm a pretty laid back, like, I'm not, yeah, I'll direct you, but I'm not gonna yell at you or something like that. And I'm a pretty laid back guy until I'm not. And people are always kind of shocked sometimes, where it's like, oh, he tells jokes and stuff like that, but it's like, yeah, and he's laid back. It's surprising when there's an incident or something that requires where, like, I step in and be like, and have harsh words with somebody. I'm like, I'm not gonna take it, and I'm laying down the law. No more of this, or we're gonna have a serious problem. So you just have to establish proper boundaries. You know what I mean? I mean, you can judge. You just judge rightly. Right? And as Holy Moly said, I gave this in the talk, forgiveness is more to do with you than the other person. Forgiveness is a release from the captivity of the memory of the past. It doesn't say to forget or put the person in the same position that they were in that hurt you or did something wrong. Forgiveness, you can still forgive and be like, you got to go to jail. Like, you got to face the, like, justice. It isn't sweeping things under the rug. It doesn't do anything really for the other person, just for you. If you are being held captive by that memory of the past, you release yourself so that you can make spiritual progress and move on. That's what forgiveness is. Yeah, slander and gossip is like it's very demonic. Wait a minute, how was that? I thought Father Justin Havens was Roquefort. Did he switch jurisdictions? Or is the parish in Salt Lake Serbian? He's Serbian? Why did I think he was that was a Roquefort? Father Justin Havens. Man, I'm out of it. Or is it Antioch? What is he? Greek? Oh, Antioch. He's Antiochian. So it means he's not establishing a Serbian Orthodox mission. He is an Antiochian. Oh, I didn't know that. He's Serbian. He's one of us. That's awesome. That's why Father Julian called me the other day and was like, wanted his phone number. Got it. Yeah, priest or I mean, just depends what's going. Like, you don't know. So St. Peter and Paul's, did he leave that parish, or did that parish become Serbian too? I mean, this stuff gets complicated because basically depends on how the bylaws, but the bishop and the diocese can own that property. So if you switch, it means you'd have to leave that parish. Unless there was something agreement that the parish could, and a lot of stuff has to do with the bylaws. You got to read, so there's no kind of one size fits all answer for. Yeah, thank you, Noah. Well, hopefully I'll I don't know if I'll make it to San Antonio in February, but I'll be in Houston. Yeah, it depends on mission parishes might not, they're small. So it might be harder to get a hold of mission parishes. All right, other questions. Like, for example, we have a mission parish that has to be, has no priest, like, I'm the residing clergy member uh, in Helena. um, but even though the diaconate is part of the priesthood, I'm not the priest. Like, I can't actually serve by myself the divine liturgy. So we have a visit, like Father Russell is the visiting priest who serves our community here in Helena, in the Serbian diocese. We're a mission satellite parish of Holy Trinity in Butte. So you may have a similar situation there too. That's often the case. Like mission parish may not have a resident priest, but has a visiting priest that serves that community, which might be harder to get to the person, the priest. So, what should an aspiring catechism do if there aren't any Orthodox? Well, first of all, you need to be in contact, regardless of whether how close the parish is. You need to be in contact at least through the email or phone with the priest. That's going to be your priest. You'll have to make some type of schedule about when you visit and when he visits. No matter how far it is, I mean, you got to do it. I mean, Tristan has to drive 7-8 hours to get and he does at least once a month. I'm not saying that's what you have to do once a month or something, but a schedule you need to be in contact with an actual priest, because you can't be a catechumen without actually being under in contact with the priest who's catechizing you. Now, what you could do if you can't make weekly like you could tell, I know people have been in this situation. Father Deacon Ananias does. I'll probably be starting this up, not this Thursday, but the next one. Next Thursday. That I have an online catechesis and continuing education. So there's two groups. I know that the Antiochian House of Studies even references and cites it within their program too. And a lot of priests will give the blessing to be like, you can use Father Deacon Ananias's catechesis and continuing education course for your catechesis, but you're under that priest. That's what you have to do. Hardest part about the deacon role. How does it juggle with another full time? That's a good question. I mean, I have a unique kind of role that I've had to talk to people that were worried about, like, should I become a deacon? And I'm like, well, first of all, don't look at, I'm in a very unique position. I'm basically, do you know how the priest acts on behalf of the bishop? He has the antimins, which means in place of. There's no priest here in Helena. I'm appointed as acting as the priest in Helena. That puts a lot of responsibility on me. So again, I don't have the authority to consecrate or do confessions or something like that, but I act in place of, because Father Russell can't be here. He puts me, you're acting as if I were there until I'm there. Now I run everything, I don't make my own decisions, right? I run everything by Father Russell. I'm like, Father Russell, I have a blessing to this. We just talked about, like, when do you want me to start the class? I get a blessing to visit the VA and stuff like that. So I'm under an authority. Most deacons, I can't even think of a deacon that has that position. Whereas you're the acting priest, basically, as a deacon in a community. That's a lot of responsibility. Also having it online, and just receiving attacks and having to deal with insanos all the time and haters. Most deacons would never have to step into that role. Running Patristic Faith, even though I relinquished executive authority and put it under a clergy advisory board and bishop, still deacons don't tend to do that. As far as balance, also, yeah, I'm a philosophy professor too, and that role is kind of interesting because the college has me in my cassock. They want the Orthodox presence there in my teaching role. That's unique. So it's hard. I'm in a very unique position as the type of deacon that I am in the roles. So it's hard for me, like, what I think it's pretty mellow normally. You wouldn't have to worry about most. You basically show up and serve liturgy. That's probably about it. Um, you don't have responsibility to kind of counsel people, and let alone guide a whole city and area, and or have an online apologet. Like, so yeah, it would, the diaconate normally doesn't do. Most deacons would never have that. Yeah, but the difference is we're all part of the priesthood. We're priests. It's just I don't have the authority of myself to do without the priest. I can aid and offer the Eucharist with him, but not by myself. Um, yeah, it just depends on how big your parish is. It looks like you've upgraded from a mission to a parish. There's going to be a little bit. The responsibilities are kind of like like you have to be there liturgically. Um, you read the scriptures daily and stuff like that. We already get that as a reader and subdeacon. Um, you'll have to work. You have to contact the priest and find some like way to. I drive more than 50 miles every Sunday to get to church, so I know you don't have a car or something like that. But those things can be worked out. You got to go to seminary to become typically part of the priesthood, even at the diaconate level. And to go to seminary, you need a bachelor's first, then 3 years of seminary. So you have probably, and you can't go to seminary until you've been Orthodox for at least 3 years. So, and that should be, you can have a conversation with your priest, but it should be the recommendation of your priest. Then you can tell, like, hey, I'm interested. Do you think? But they're the ones actually going to write the letter and petition the bishop too. So all of that's good. Like, it's kind of protects against kind of ambition and stuff like that and prelates that, oh, I think I should, and I'm making my own decisions. But yeah, until the meantime, you can, watch the videos. You can like tune in live. Normally we did that Friday. We were working on people, the parishioners in person here had a more difficult time Friday nights, so we're probably going to move that one, kick that back. But I was waiting for the students at Carroll College. Some of them are Orthodox to return, so we're going to have a in-person presence. That's amazing. That's so cool about father moving to Texas. And all right, that is it. Unless somebody has a super chat, I am gotta get going. See a stretch. Everybody stretch. Oh. Any super chat questions? Otherwise, we're gonna depart in peace in the name of the Lord. Oh man, like, yeah. Oh, my class is ready. Can you believe it? Starting this week. It depends. Depends what you mean by old calendars. Do you mean, do I go to a church that's on the old calendar? Yeah, Serbians are. Am I a schismatic? No. I am part of the canonical Orthodox Church. Is Patristic Faith does not is not under any one jurisdiction other than the the blessing of Bishop Maximus Servian, but like he doesn't run the. And the clergy advisory board is composed of like probably 8 or 10 clergy from various jurisdictions. Antiochian, Rokor, Serbian, OCA. I'm trying to think if we have any Greeks. I don't know if I have any. We've got a Goark priest on. It's Pan-Orthodox. How about that? This channel is Pan-Orthodox, but it's not schismatic. You're allowed to be on the new calendar. You can be like me and attend a church that we're always in communion with persecutors. There's always enemies in the church. Always has been. You're a schismatic, aren't you? Are you okay, Cyprian? Are you okay? Okay. Are you okay? Okay. Oh, Masonic. Oh, God, you got us, dude. Are you 5 years old? Oh, you got somebody who's got talk about Donatus. Yeah, get out of here, dude. You blasphemer. Demonic schismatic. You're out of here. May God have mercy on your soul. Because you're on a road to hell and perdition. As a schismatic, you are on a road to hell. And you can come up with all the stupid, autistic 17-year-old. We've refuted you a million times. You're totally deluded. And you're not part of the Orthodox Church. Like, that's... So you are gone. Oh, by the way, just so you know, telling you you're wrong is not slander, you moron. Be careful with your slander. You're literally, it's true. You're not part of the church. You're a schismatic who is not in communion with. It's like somebody else. Like if you disagree, that's disagreeing with you and telling you wrong is not slander. Yeah, I have no time for these demons. They're demonic. Like, if you can't pick up on the energy, most of them suffer from mental illness too. All right, I'm a laid back guy until I'm not. I told you, like, I'm not gonna let somebody come and spew that filth and garbage on my channel. I'm very protective of my parishioners and the Orthodox faithful. You mess around, that's really how you get me. I've always been that way. I don't like bullies. I don't like people picking on people. And you come in here with your trash and garbage, insulting our faith. Yeah, I'm not gonna be a laid back deacon. I'm gonna call you out and ban you from. Yeah, these guys probably 16 years old. Anyways, God bless you guys. Now you got saw the serious side of me. Now you know. Now you know. Uh-oh, Mason. Do you know what's so stupid about that argument? Holding personal heresies doesn't excommunicate you from. And first of all, you'd have to be like, I don't like. There's two different issues there. One is a practical issue, like no Orthodox should be a. Right? That's not a theological, that's an ecclesial, administrative practical canonical issue, you shouldn't be. So I can't even say that per se means somebody is a heretic theologically. I'm like, I don't know. Like, well, they're not allowed to be Masons, but I don't know what they are theologically. And again, talk about judging before. So these people, this is why they're on a road to hell. They'll be judged by the same standard. You get to be judged before a court. You'll be found guilty and not presumed innocent before you get a day in court. That's basically what they're saying. A council has to excommunicate. That's the court. You don't get to, as a 17-year-old autist, get to decide who's in and out of the church. You don't have the authority of that. The synod, a conciliar synod, right? Which means those bishops are only bishops if they're in communion with other bishops. They decide. Well, what if they're all Masons too? Well, did God say the gates of hell are going to prevail against the church? What it doesn't mean is like, well, I can break off and start my own church that's not in communion with anybody, that's not synodal, and be the judge. Furthermore, if that was the standard, then you don't even have any apostolic lineage of any of your bishops, because there was always a time in which we're in communion with some heretic before they were excommunicated. I mean, it's how stupid this is. So congratulations, you just refuted yourself. With that, I end today's stream. May the Lord bless all of you and keep you, and may his grace shine upon you and preserve you from error and deception. Until next time, God bless.